All right. Batting next, number 23, Chris. Hi, I'm Chris Palacios. My wife right there, Destiny. I just gonna wrap it right there. Anyways, you know, last week Pastor said that, you know, this week's message was based on the message I gave last Wednesday.
2 Wednesdays.
And to hear him say that, and the small message I gave, he based it on, you know, he based his message today on what I said. You know, that blessed me in its own, just because, you know, it tells me, it's God's confirmation that, you know, my word isn't heard. And you know, again, I named it "Leave It All on the Field." And athletes have a phrase they often use to describe their intensity of play, and it is, leave it all on the field. The idea is to give it all you got. All the conditioning, weightlifting, and studying, and studying the playbook have brought you to game time. The preparation is over, and it's time to give it all you got and leave it all on the field. No holding back. Now, most of us would not recognize Paul as an athlete, but in the game of life, he was one of those who left it all on the field. He chose to abandon popularity, position, and power to gain an eternal prize. And it's not even an eternal prize, it's the eternal prize. The dictionary definition of the word abandon is to forsake, desert, to surrender one's claim or right to give up, to desist from, or to yield oneself completely. You know, what better word to describe the life of Paul? What better word could describe a person whose one desire is to live a life of worship? Paul was talking about in Philippians 3 that he counted all his gain that he had in life previous to being saved as nothing. He said, everything that I have is nothing, that he can know God, that he would know God. His one desire was to have intimate fellowship with Christ. A life of worship has deserted all of the ways of living to have an intimate relationship with Jesus. It has forsaken all that is familiar to walk by faith. It has surrendered all rights to have its own way and has yielded control to the one who formed it.
Amen.
Once we have abandoned our old way of life, we are called to abandon worship. You know, you're looking at me like, you just said the word abandon, you described it as to desert, you know, to forsake. The thing is, when the word abandon is used as an adjective, it means shameless. Thus, we have shameless worship. Now, I play the drums almost every week. But when I don't, you know, most of y'all would see me down here. And again, I'm not trying to say, look at me, I'm praising and worshiping better than you. No. The thing is, when it comes down to this time, praise and worship, it's all about me and God. It's all about me shamelessly worshiping Him.
Amen.
God is calling us, His bride, to a life of abandonment, to set aside all inhibitions we have about the way we live and respond to his love. God is calling for abandonment when we get up every morning and go about our lives. He is calling for abandonment every time we gather with believers to worship him. And I just tell a small little story. I was supposed to give this word 2 weeks prior to when I actually did. Well, I came back to it and I read it. I read it that morning. I was in the teacher's lounge of a school that I was at. And I started reading it. I read through it. And I was like, I just want to make sure everything looks right, it's good. But I started reading it, like really getting into it, reading it. And, it just, I get really teary-eyed. I almost started crying, bawling right there in the middle of that teacher's lounge. The secretary, one of the secretaries from that school came in the teacher's lounge. She's like, "Are you all right? Are you okay?" And my only words were, "I'm awesome."
Amen.
I'm blessed to have read what I just read.
Amen.
And I got home that day after work, and Jesse's looking at me, and she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm awesome." And I went and grabbed. Many of y'all don't know this about me. I play video games. I'm a gamer. So, like, oh my God, he's a little kid. But anyways, yes, I play video games. And the thing is, I grabbed all of my video games, even the one that was in my system, and I was like, "Babe, I gotta get rid of these."
Amen.
And she's like, "What are you talking about? You just bought that. You know how much that was?" I was like, "Yes, babe, but that's not the point." I was ready to just, go to my old job, the pawn shop right down the road, and sell it to them. And the thing is, that moment when I was about to start crying in that school, I realized that my abandoned worship wasn't even worship. Like, you would see me dancing right here, but when I would get home, just, in our room, I would choose to play those video games most of the time. I would Saturday mornings, my day off, I would play video games from 9:30 in the morning to 6:30 at night. Again, yes, I'm sorry, I'll play me some games. But again, she told me, she said, she just looked at me and stared at me, and she smiled a little bit. And, when we came, and the thing about it is, like I said, he is calling for abandonment every time we gather with the believers to worship him. When you say you have abandoned worship in your life, when you say you live an abandoned worship lifestyle, the thing is, there's no playing it safe. My dad told me once when I was a kid, right before one of my basketball games, he said, "If you aren't going to show out, why show up?" It's time to be reckless with our lives and with our worship. It's time for the bride of Christ to leave it all on the field. My question is, have you made a commitment to live a life of abandoned worship? Have you left it all on the field? Just like me, he did with my games, you have to ask him, what is it that is distracting me from living that type of life? Thank you.